Strangely strange, but
Hi, my name's John Downes. It's what the poet Keats described as the season of mists and mellow fruitfulness, the autumn. I gave up smoking 5 weeks ago and I'm feeling completely psychopathic. So welcome to another edition of On the Track. I've always been fonder of the transition seasons than of the main ones. The spring and the autumn have always delighted me far more than the winter or the summer. The summer's too hot, the winter's too cold, but there's something particularly glorious about this time of year. I went to Tropiquaria last week, and it was particularly good fun to be able to wander around the zoo when there were hardly any public there. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not one of these people who thinks that all zoos should be private, so the general public should never be allowed in. Of course they should. The most important part of a zoo, indeed the most important part of what we all do here, is to educate people about animals and the reality of the natural world. But I tell you what, it is great fun when there's no one around. The spectacled caiman have recently laid eggs.
Welcome to our new reptile nursery here at Sumatran Rhino. We have a range of baby snakes, 2 generations of Madagascan tree boas here, and some Jamaican boas. And our latest arrival is 6 caiman eggs. Now, our spectacled caimans have produced eggs previously, but they were always left in the cage, and the male caiman tended to eat them. We have an improvised incubator here, but for the purposes of hatching reptiles, improvised incubators seem to be the main tour de force in the reptile world. Styrofoam box with a heat mat, and let's have a look.
Although Tropiquaria is a normal zoo and smaller than most, it does have some exhibits of genuine cryptozoological interest. These frogs recently turned up in an animal dealer in South London. They came from West Africa and they were advertised as African bullfrogs, but it's obvious that they're nothing of the sort. They only cost us £5 each, but what are they?
These are... they're probably the best 20 quid we ever spent. But they're not exactly... they're not telegenic, are they?
There's 2 up there, are they?
Hang on, I got one.
They most closely resemble West African Goliath frogs, the largest frog known in the world. But they're not quite right. There are several other species in the genus Conroa, but these don't seem to be any of the known ones. So what are they? Are they a new species of Goliath frog, a new species of the genus Conroa, which just, unfortunately for them, but fortunately for us, turned up in a hunter's nets? This is potentially one of the greatest successes of the CFZ, and it happened by accident. The great zoologist Bernard Heuvelmans, popularly known as the father of cryptozoology, once said that lost worlds can be found anywhere. But found in a South London reptile shop for a cost of 20 quid? That, my friends, is bordering on the ridiculous. The CFZ have undertaken 2 expeditions to this Indonesian island of Sumatra, the first in 2003 and the second a year later. Both expeditions were searching for the upright walking bipedal ape orangutan deck that allegedly haunts the more remote parts of the island. However, I know for a fact that Richard Freeman, the CFZ zoological director, was particularly disappointed that on neither occasion did he run into one of his favourite animals, the shy, elusive and extremely rare Sumatran rhinoceros. In historic times, the Sumatran rhino had quite a wide distribution across Indochina, but now its range has been reduced to 4 sites on the island of Sumatra, 1 place on Peninsula Malaya, and 1 location in northern Borneo. It was recently discovered that the Borneo population is more healthy than had otherwise been thought. In 2006 came the first camera trap photos, and then last year the first moving images from a video camera trap show a living, wild Sumatran rhino of the Borneo subspecies for the first time. Well done to the Worldwide Fund for Nature from whom we pinched these pictures. This once again proves, as if any proof was needed, that camera traps, both stills and videos, are invaluable tools for cryptozoologists and zoological researchers across the globe. Let's face it, in the year or so that we've been running on the track, we've brought you camera trap pictures proving the existence of a new species of elephant shrew, of new colour morphs and rare colour morphs of various cat species, a new species of jerboa, and a new, or at least a very, very newly rediscovered species of palm civet. This also poses questions as to the possible status of other presumed extinct populations of this and other rhino species. The political situation across much of the Sumatran rhino's former range is less than ideal, and it seems quite likely to us at the CFZ that there may well be other populations awaiting discovery. After all, in the history of rhino biology, such a thing has already happened. This is a Javan rhinoceros, almost certainly the rarest large animal in the world. Between 40 and 50 still survive on the island of Java, and a handful, less than a dozen, live in a heavily policed nature reserve in Vietnam. As you can see from the distribution map, however, within recent historic times its range was much wider than that of the Sumatran rhinoceros. The discovery of the Vietnamese population in the late 1980s made zoological headlines across the world. After all, it was found in an area that had been decimated by American bombing during the Vietnam War only just over a decade before. If they could have survived there, could the Javan rhinoceros survive elsewhere in its former range? The CFZ believes the answer is yes, because about 10 years ago there was a very, very sketchy report from northern India that a Javan rhinoceros had been shot in a forest on the border between India and Myanmar, the country formerly known as Burma. Myanmar was well within the Javan rhino's historical range, and it is so little known because of the political upsets which have dogged it in recent years that it is quite possible that the Javan rhinoceros could still survive there. After all, its close relative, the great Indian rhinoceros, does live in those areas, and we believe that it is quite possible that the two species have become intermingled in people's minds, and that some reported sightings of the great Indian rhinoceros in these forests are actually sightings of one of a relict population of its much, much rarer cousin. Okay guys, as part of our commitment not only to bring you the news of the stranger and more bizarre aspects of the natural world each month, but to educate you all as to more and more obscure, progressive and psychedelic music, here is a competition. The record we played over the Sumatran Rhino segment is called Super Heap. All you have to do is tell me the name of the band. The first 3 people to email me on john@eclipse.co.uk with the name of the band that recorded Super Heap will get a prize. I ain't telling you what the prize is yet, but it'll be worth having. Returning back to the forests of Borneo for a few minutes, a new discovery has vindicated what we have always said on the track about the relevance of bug collecting, entomology and the study of the creepy crawlies of this world and cryptozoology. Because scientists working at the Natural History Museum in London have discovered what they believe to be the longest insect in the world. The stick insect, Phobichiatus chanii, measures 55.6 centimetres long, a whole centimetre longer than the insect previously thought to be the world's longest. Even without its long legs, it still has the longest body in the insect world, measuring 35.7 centimetres, which is 2.9 centimetres, that's over an inch, longer than the previous record holder. Yet another stick insect from Borneo. It is thought that the insects live towards the top of the canopy in the rainforests. Their eggs have wing-like protrusions that are thought to help the eggs blow to neighbouring trees, spreading the species far and wide and reducing interspecific competition. The only known specimen was in the hands of a private collector for 10 years, and it was thought it was from another species before it was donated to the museum. As yet, no live specimens have been found, but scientists hope that they will be able to observe it in its natural habitat and save the area from which it lives from deforestation. The specimen will go on display in the Creepy Crawlies Gallery at the Natural History Museum in London. George Beccaloni, the museum's curator of stick insects, said, "We've known about both the previous record holders for over 100 years, so it's extraordinary that an even bigger species has only just been discovered. It's a sad thought that many other spectacular insect species are disappearing as their habitats are destroyed before we've been able to find and name them. It's amazing that such big things are still out there, and it makes you wonder what else there may be." Makes us wonder as well, George. It's Biggles! Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to the third ever CFZ dog. This CFZ dog's no ordinary CFZ dog. He runs, he barks, he yaps, he rushes around the place, and he's the apple of the eye of my darling wife, Karina. Ladies and gentlemen, once upon a time I said I would never live with another puppy, and this one's it. Welcome back, my friends, to the dog that never ends. It's Biggles!
Friends greet you. Friends greet you on the way and say, there you go. You may wonder where you're supposed to be going. I've often thought of the youngest daughter and the joyous overflowing.
My cup really doth runneth over this month, because not only have we got a gorgeous new puppy in which to delight, but one of my favourite bands of all time, the remarkably chaotic Dr. Strangely Strange, seem to have reformed. This piece of video, pinched from YouTube, shows a remarkably chaotic gig from London last summer. But even though they get all the words and all the tune and all the things of their most famous song disastrously wrong, it's still gorgeously beautiful, oddly fractured, strangely strange if you may. I love this band. That's one of the reasons that I've been using their music totally without permission at the beginning of On The Track, right since the beginning. But I'm still trying to get hold of them. Intermittently, I email one of the email addresses I find to see if I can get them to come and play at the Weird Weekend. Because they really should be the house band of the Centre for Fortean Zoology. Good luck, guys, and this time make another record. Well, I guess it's time now for our regular monthly look at new and rediscovered creatures. This is an eastern quoll, a small carnivorous mammal which is found quite commonly on the island of Tasmania. Once upon a time, like so many other Tasmanian mammals, it was also found on the mainland. But it hasn't been seen there for many years and is generally considered to be extinct. two eastern quoll have just been found as roadkill on the Australian mainland for the first time in over 40 years. However, whilst it might be possible that the quolls are remnants of a long-surviving population, sadly for us, it's far more likely that they're descendants of escapees. Mount Rothwell Conservation and Research Centre near Melbourne has been breeding captive quolls since about 2002. Individual quolls probably escaped from the sanctuary into the wild, so most likely the quolls found recently are either direct escapees from the centre or descendants of escaped quolls. Still in Australia, another rediscovery, but this time one about which there was no doubt whatsoever. A mouse species which was thought to have been extinct in New South Wales for 150 years has been found living in a drought-ravaged national park in the state's far west. It's the first time anyone has seen the desert mouse in the Sturt National Park near Tabura since 1857. The manager of the area's National Parks and Wildlife Service, Ingrid Witt, says that a PhD student at the University of South Wales, Ulrika Kloker, made the important discovery. We certainly didn't expect any new finds, she said. Miss Kloker had been out there travelling and had to get the manual book out again to identify the species because she'd never come across one before, and yes, there it was. Mrs. Witt said that further investigations will now take place to try to find other desert mice. She says that it's exciting that the park can still yield mammals despite the prolonged drought. Although it's a rodent, it really doesn't look like a little house mouse that we know of. This one is a beautiful colour, she says. It has a buff orange ring about its eyes. It's quite an attractive little thing. Ms. Ulrika, who works in Sturt National Park investigating the ecology of the small reptile and mammal communities, said in a statement that she was extremely excited by the discovery. Our third and final rediscovered animal this month comes courtesy of an old friend of the CFZ. Debbie Martin is best known to cryptozoologists for her work investigating Orang Pendek, the upright walking ape that is supposed to exist in Sumatra. However, she's also employed by the Kranji Sablat National Park Tiger Protection Unit, and together with a team working for Flora and Fauna International, they've rediscovered the Sumatran muntjac, a lost species of deer, which has been found nearly a century after its last positive sighting. The Sumatran muntjac was originally discovered in 1914, but had not been seen since 1930. It's believed that the type specimen for the deer, originally filed at the Raffles Museum in Singapore, was lost when the museum was evacuated as the Japanese prepared to invade Singapore in early 1942. Debbie Marta, the program manager for the FFI in Kranji Sablat, managed to take photographic proof of the rescued deer, the first ever photographs of a live specimen, when it was caught in a hunter's snare. Two more individuals were subsequently photographed using automatic infrared camera traps at a different location. Taxonomists have now confirmed that the Sumatran muntjac is a new species, and not just a local subspecies as previously assumed. Well done, Debs.
Well guys, that's about it for this episode. I have to apologise for the fact it's a bit shorter than normal, but we're off to the 14 Times convention tomorrow, and so if we'd actually waited until we came back, it would have come back halfway through the middle of next week. It's just the way the cookie crumbles, so next episode will be an extra long one. So until then guys, I just want to say thank you to Graham, to Max, and to Richard, who've been my cameraman this issue, to Max, who's researched some of the stories, and to Graham, who's helped me do the final day's editing. So until next month.